Hey everyone, Rob from Southgate Media Group here. Before we get started with this podcast, we have a quick message. If this is your first time checking out the show, we love that you found us and we really hope you enjoy it. What we have to say is for the subscribers. If you enjoy our shows, would you please donate to help keep these going? We don't want to have to put traditional ads on these shows, but this does cost money. So we really do rely heavily on donations. To make a donation to the show, please go to our website, www.southgatemediagroup.com. Go to the page for the show, and in the upper right-hand corner is a donate button. It takes you right to PayPal, and you can donate whatever amount you want. Thanks a lot for listening, everybody. And now on with the show. Welcome to the Patreon-only Daredevil review from Nuff Said. You're listening to Men in Red Tights. So boys, I think if they're on this, they know who we are. So I don't think we need really introductions here.
Well, we are the Pied Pipers of Patreon.
Oh, nice. So is that what we're going to do each time?
I don't think so. I don't think we can maintain that.
No, I don't think we should.
Think we can. Yeah.
So we're going to talk about Season 1, Episode 1 on this episode, and then we'll go into Season 1, Episode 2 also, I think. Are we going to do both episodes? Do you want to do one? What do you guys want to do?
Well, actually, what I was going to do is talk about Episode 1, and Lil, while I do that, is going to talk about Episode 2.
So can we do it so one's in each
time.
channel so you can pull, so they can like lift the right headphone and they only hear it out of the left and then they switch later? That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, that'd be way cool.
Completely annoying and awful in a car. Can you imagine in a car what that would sound like?
Oh God, that would be terrible.
So let's get into this thing, guys. Season 1, Episode 1, Into the Ring. First of all, I just want to say up front, oh my God, this is everything I wanted from a Daredevil series. I mean, from the minute this thing starts, the ultra violence, the black costume, like it's all there. I mean, do you guys feel the same way? Are you dying over this like I am?
Yeah. It's got realism. It's got that Frank Miller kind of dark thing going on, but it's not. I appreciate it. It's not like the plastic outfit with Deathlock from Agents of S.h.I.E.L.D. It's just, right. It's like something that somebody would really, jersey. Yeah, like somebody really would have kind of put together in the prelim. There's a mask that covers his eyes and his black sweater.
Right.
Oops.
Yeah. No. It makes so much sense, and it actually fits with that news that came out this week when Kevin Feige was saying there's a teenager flying around New York in a homemade Spider-Man outfit. And I'm looking at this and I kept thinking of that while I was watching him in the black suit thinking, yeah, they don't have the government issuing them, here's your military armor that is your uniform, soldier.
Well, the government or billionaire playboy philanthropist.
Yeah, right.
They have for them. This is a blind guy going out and trying to protect his identity,
Right. And he has no armor. I mean, geez, this guy gets beaten to hell. I love that realism too. Like as he's fighting, how he gets winded and how like when he gets hit in the side, he's wearing like my hoodie that I have on right here. That offers no protection.
Right.
Of course, I could take a punch better than him, but
And I really, speaking of uniform, one of the fights with his dad, and they send the red silk robe, blazing red, and I thought that's where they're going to have the tie-in, and battling Murdoch or something like that,
right?
And
battling Jack Murdoch,
and it was like, okay, that's where the red comes from.
Well, yeah. Did you guys notice the yellow on there too? Because that is totally what he used for his original costume. I don't think we're going to get the yellow in this. No. I think we're going to go right to the red, which is too bad because I would really like to see that yellow. Now, I have not watched that far. because I don't wanna like keep slipping into what happens. So don't tell me if I get something wrong as far as that stuff goes, and you're like, "Oh, dude, the yellow costume's coming." I don't want to know.
So when you say "mark my words" and we go, ooh,
not on this,
ouch.
not on this. I'm not marking my words.
And we're just
This
like,
is,
okay, you want to bet?
Yeah.
I bet you a new Apple computer.
Yes.
Yeah, I am just enjoying this. It's just like a good meal. I just keep taking these nice little bites and going, "Oh man, it's so good." So you guys both enjoyed it. This first episode, I think they did a really smart thing. They avoided the, hey, let's just do the origin story. I love where they started. It is the origin story because he's in the black costume. And we saw what happened, but did you ever feel like, oh God, we get the Daredevil origin here?
So talking about the origin, like you're right, they did not start with an origin story, but it is an origin story, and this also to me gave me a lot of reminders of what we saw in the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie in 2003.
Yeah, but
because it was a lot of flashbacks.
We didn't have the Ninja Turtle green. It was similar. I mean, I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but I don't hate the Ben Affleck one.
No, and neither do I. And I've talked about that a lot. I don't either.
Especially the director's cut. If you've watched that, it truly is better. Everybody always says that, but it truly is better. It's not a bad movie when you watch the director's cut. There's stuff I would change about the movie for sure. And I actually liked the origin in that, but I didn't want to see a complete recap of the origin story here. And I think they did a great job of give us the point where they entered it, do the quick flashback, but it felt like a flashback. It didn't feel like, let's go through the whole origin for the first episode and then we'll get on with the story. I felt like we were right in the middle of the story.
Right. We got the beginning and we didn't get the awkward teen years. We just went right to the case. And that was really cool. I enjoyed it. I didn't get the reboot kind of feeling that many times you do.
Right.
With Spider-Man, and I hate to bring that up, but so many of those, it's like, okay, we gotta reboot. It's Superman. We gotta reboot Superman. And it gets really tiresome. But to me, this worked better. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But I think they touched on it for the things that they had to, and they moved on.
Yeah, I just felt like it was just enough flavor to let people know who Daredevil is. Like, I watched it with Martha, and she doesn't know anything about Daredevil. Like, she was like, what? He's blind? Like, she doesn't know this story at all.
Wait, he's blind?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Jack. Spoiler.
Oh, man. Next thing you're going to tell me he's the lawyer.
Right.
Oh, jeez.
So I think that it filled it in without, being dumb. Like, for the people that know the story, I felt like it worked. And for Martha, I think it filled in those blanks where she knows, okay, he lost his sight this way. This is what's going on. But you know what? I actually think this is what worked. It feels like they're revealing what his powers are kind of slowly. Like, we know, but they're not just like, hey, here's all the powers. Because if you watch the Daredevil movie, it's like you see him as a kid. He's in the hospital, and the powers come on like gangbusters. And by the time he's Daredevil, we know what is going on. Here, we as the comic book reader know, but it's like they're revealing it as we go along. And then we'll get to it, but I love in the second episode how it starts revealing to Rosario Dawson. I think it's just great.
Well, and I also get the sense that they're there, but we're not getting the special effects, slow motion, like sonar thing. He's using it.
Yeah.
You know the powers. You can see what's going on. He can sense the lie. He can sense the heartbeat. He can sense, he's got the super hearing going on. But I don't feel inundated with special effects to make that, and that is really cool to me.
So
I agree with that. I mean, and right here, you said what special effects? There's no CG here. I mean, it is so minimal and it's background stuff.
And if there really is, it's very subtle because I mean, this is like watching like a Jackie Chan movie where you go, hey, you think these might be special effects because there's so much action going on, but then in hindsight you figure out, wait a minute, he's really doing these fight sequences, and this has a lot of realism because there isn't that CGI thing going on.
Yeah, it would be interesting to find out if there actually was CGI, because if that's the case, it's the way it should be used.
Right.
And here, speaking of like the beginning of the story, and I didn't have time to go back, but I really want to know what it said on the barrels when the chemical spilled out of that truck. And I meant to go back.
Did you catch that a little? I think it just says toxic or something, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't think it was anything important. I can't remember, but I don't think it was anything important.
Well, and I think the guy, his dad actually says the words of what's on it. I think he says like, toxic waste or something like that. I think he reads it to the audience. So, I think that going back, it's not going to be anything mystical. It's that classic Marvel, hey, we've introduced radiation of some form into this world, and it gives people superpowers rather than, giving them cancer and melting their brains.
I'm not going to mark my words on it, but I think there's something more to the text. I really do.
Okay.
So I'm going to go back. I'm going to check it out.
I don't think anyone's going to mark their words on this show at all. I think we're just going to go for the ride, enjoy it, and I mark my words. I don't think that's happening.
All right, so we've talked a lot about Daredevil or Matt Murdock. What about the other characters that we've been introduced to here?
First
Foggy
episode, Bottom Gang.
Yes. So first episode, we've got Foggy. We know Foggy now. I think this guy is doing a fantastic Foggy. I don't know about you guys, but I think he's spot on for Foggy Nelson. Jack, did you read Daredevil? Do you know this character?
I'm waiting for the ice to settle in the background.
Drinking early, huh?
Well, yeah, it's
Why not?
5 o'clock. It's 5 o'clock in China right now. So.
Yeah, right. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. So
I did a long time ago, and I know a lot of elements of the character.
So
but
you kind of know who Foggy is. I mean, to me, this guy is Foggy. It did work for me. How about you, Alil?
No, I've got to just.
And I got to say, I don't remember who played Foggy in Daredevil in the movie.
Jon Favreau.
It was Jon Favreau. I was thinking it was, but I'm like, I can't even remember. And I like him, but it was inconsequential, kind of.
Oh, right. He didn't matter at all in the movie.
And he's an important character.
He's very important. And okay, I don't want. You're right, because I've watched the entire series.
Yeah, don't spoil anything.
Things have changed.
But he's important in the comic books. So I mean, the fact that the way they're doing this, when you're like, I don't want to say anything, I already know he's got to be important because he is so important in the comics.
And he is, but I'm talking about kind of how
for this story.
Yeah, well, how now I'm drawing a blank on the actor's name, Mighty Ducks. God.
Who played Foggy? Or who plays Foggy?
Yes. Let's just put it this way.
Henson or Eden Henson?
Yes.
Eldon Henson.
Eldon, yeah. To me, he was okay early on as Foggy. I do think it's going to take him some time to get into the role. I think out of everyone acting in episodes 1 and 2, I do think he's the weakest of the actors.
Really?
I didn't. Although it might just be, I don't know. I think it's the fact that I noticed him because I didn't even remember Favreau.
Yeah, I like
maybe.
I like the character, but I was like I was a big Philip Seymour Hoffman fan. I enjoy, especially like the early comedies. I mean, the guy was in the middle of a movie, says, "Dude, I sharted. We got to leave."
Yeah, right.
And I was pretty much hooked. And Eldon Henson really reminds me of that, like him early on, where he's got that kind of Foggy believability.
Yeah.
And at the same time, he's got like a little bit of the conscience, and he has a kindness, but he's just he's like the sidekick, and he partied too much in college, and dadgummit.
That's why they're paying the big bucks for these Patreon episodes, Jack. To hear you banging around on that microphone.
I gotta stop talking with my hands, because when I talk with my hands, the microphone gets in the way.
Yeah, you should be like a Lil. He's got things going on with his hands. So,
Hey,
I mean, taking notes. So, how about Karen? What do you guys think of Karen?
Loved her.
Loved her.
Loved her.
How about you, Jack?
The first 2 episodes, I loved her.
Yeah.
Trying not to cough.
I gotta say, I loved that. I love how she was introduced, and I didn't know, it wasn't connecting that it was Karen, like who it was. And then I'm like, oh, wait a minute. She's so important. I thought it was, okay, there's going to be this murder. It's how Matt gets on Kingpin's radar, blah, blah, blah. Very quickly, that's not the case. And very quickly, she becomes Karen Page, who is an important character once again.
Right. I like the character. I like how they integrated it into the story. And, she like, well, you know what? I'll work for free. And then on the second episode,
I get paid.
Like, yeah. Did you realize she's not free?
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah, that was good
for a little bit, but
yeah, I love her too, though. I think she's really, really perfect for this role. And I like how she's introduced. I liked this whole thing. And here's another thing I liked. I'm going to just keep saying how much I liked. But it's this first episode when he goes to the container. Am I right?
Yeah, that's the first opening is where he's
at the container. But then we see that the guy that she knows is dead.
Right.
And then is this the one where he goes? Is it the first one or the second one where he goes to the container where he saves the women?
That was the first one.
Yeah, that's the first one. Okay. Yeah, I love that. And I loved how they introduced the thugs there, too.
Yeah, the Russians, which, that's the biggest element right now.
And the Russians who, in this first episode, I thought, okay, they're the guys that, they're the red shirts. They're going to get beat up by Daredevil, and we may see something of them later, but they start to become more important as we go forward here, which is cool.
Yeah, they're part of the big team.
Yeah. I think they're doing a great job of planting those seeds. I mean, if this was a movie, this is your first act, and this is really setting a lot up that for a TV series may not flip all those cards quite so early, but they seem to be doing it.
I don't see how much longer that the Kingpin is going to really put up with those guys, though. They've really set themselves up as
once again, I haven't watched it, but I can't imagine it's going to be for long because Kingpin is not he's not a calm character about these kind of things.
No. In fact, we kind of get a little glimpse at the end of the second one, but
yeah, we can't talk about Kingpin yet. All we heard was his voice so far.
Well, actually, we didn't hear Kingpin. We did hear his name, the man who shall not be named.
I thought we heard Carlton Fisk on the phone. Didn't we hear him?
No,
Wilson Fisk.
Wilson Fisk.
It was Carlton
Fisk. He's a baseball player
for the White Sox in like the 80s.
Yeah, he was. Look at him, so sportsy.
Yeah, I was going to say in the Red Sox.
I thought you were going to say like Wilson Phillips or something.
He was a catcher for the Chicago White Sox. I knew that.
He was like the catcher.
Yeah. So, okay, Wilson Fisk. Alil, I'm right. Wasn't he on the phone with his guy? With Ben? Wasn't it? Is it Ben? No, not Ben. Who's his guy? His right-hand man?
Wesley.
Yes. Oh, you can tell it's starting to get late in my head here. Yeah. With Wesley.
Yeah. You know how this plays out, like we're 2 episodes in. We're talking about the first 2 episodes here, and there is no mention of Wilson Fisk, and it's Wesley.
No, they never mentioned him.
Shots, and I love that aspect of it.
Wasn't he on the phone in this episode right at the end? He didn't say his name, but he got a phone call, and it was the person pulling Wesley's strings, and we knew it was Kingpin.
Right.
But that was him, right?
I believe you are correct. Yes.
Okay.
And I think it's Kingpin basically because we know the comic. I don't think we have a sense that if you don't know Kingpin...
All we've heard is from that phone call, we know there is somebody pulling his strings.
Right.
If we didn't know it was Vincent D'Onofrio, if we didn't know about Kingpin, we would have no idea who this character is in any way. But there is someone out there. It's kind of like on X-Files when, you had Smoking Man, you thought he's the guy, and then it turns out that the well-manicured man is the one pulling his strings. Same kind of thing.
Now, did Wesley kind of have any, like, I don't know, did he do any muscle in the comics? Because there's a couple times where it seems like they want to kind of push his buttons and he just doesn't let them. But I have, like one of these times I just kind of want to see him kind of push back. But I think,
what I was getting from him, and it's because of how he looked. I kept thinking he was going to become what's his name from Kingsman.
Yes.
And I thought they're going to push this guy and he's going to pull some move that you're like, what the? That's totally where I thought something was going to happen. But that wouldn't make sense for Wesley.
No.
But
it does. Man. It does really it does give that sense that, he'll whip out an umbrella and
yeah, right.
break the guy's femur by
that's what I was thinking.
Moving his pinky or something.
That's what I was thinking. So yeah, man.
And that's probably why I think you hit the nail on the head. He has that Kingsman vibe.
Yeah. Did you get that too, Alil?
No, I did not think he was gonna start destroying people with his hand-to-hand combat skills at all. No.
Well, no,
but
not
I mean,
necessarily.
He just kind of had a
vibe.
I wasn't thinking it was going to. I just had that little
vibe. My vibe with him until you saw the phone call at the end and kind of hit was: Are they going with maybe Wesley here being kind of the man and the Kingpin emerges? And the Kingpin then emerges as the man. And that's kind of what I was trying to feel out if that's where they were going with this.
Oh, that's
because but then they kept
So you were thinking he's eventually going to be Kingpin? Was that what you're saying?
Kingpin was eventually going to supersede him. Like right now, he is the one calling the shots.
Gotcha.
See, the other thing I was thinking is that he was going to be the puppet. Meaning that Kingpin was pulling the shots, but everybody is thinking
it was Wesley.
That it's Wesley. But we find out as we go along that's not the case. They don't know who this is, or the ones that do, they're not allowed to say his name.
Right.
So that's not really what's going on. But it definitely made it interesting. I mean, it had me thinking about this character and what was going on with him. And there is a sense of uneasiness when this character's on screen, I would say. So that episode, I can't remember. It ends with him doing that thing at the containers, letting the girls go, and that's it for that episode, right?
Right.
Okay. Next episode, then we'll do two. We'll do two in each of these episodes. I think. That's
so now we're talking about Cutman.
Now we're talking about Cutman,
where we meet Claire.
Yes, Claire, who is, I don't know if I'm right about this, but. Well, I know I'm right. They do not call her this, but she is Night Nurse. She's the nurse to the superheroes. Yep. She's got to be in Luke Cage. She's got to show up there. I think Rosario Dawson got the plum role because she could be across all these different things as Night Nurse.
I was thinking the same thing. Like, she is going to be what Agent Coulson is to Phase 1 of the cinematic universe. All of a sudden just appear. And it's like, oh, so you are the connective tissue right now to all of these.
Yes, and she doesn't need to be in that many episodes. Like, she'll probably be in, I don't know, I would guess probably half the Daredevil episodes would be my guess. I don't think she's going to be a major character throughout if she's Night Nurse, if that's who this is. And if that's the case, then I could see her showing up in Jessica Jones for 2, 3, 4 episodes, showing up in Luke Cage for a few episodes. By the time it hits Defenders, she'll still be there. I mean, I think this is a really great part, and she's the right actress. I loved her as Claire. I also loved how she was introduced. I loved seeing that thing in the beginning where he's in the dumpster.
Yeah.
That's great.
This episode was, I was hooked, of course, because I think this is great.
Yeah.
But this episode is where it told me that this was going kind of next level. Like,
yes,
it's going to be a lot. Yes, we're going to get the action, we're going to get some, the violence and everything, but we're going to get better, well-developed, well-rounded characters.
Oh, yeah.
The interplay between the two of them was so good that I was blown away by this. Like, seeing this, especially this episode, like there's nothing. Arrow, Shield, Flash, all of those are pale in comparison to what we saw here.
Totally agree. Totally agree. You know, the other thing, speaking of things that pale in comparison, we also found out in this one, I think this is where the fighting, we saw what is really to come with the fight sequences. Yeah, there was great stuff in that first episode, but that hallway scene in this episode was astounding. It made everything else, it made all of those other shows, and I'm loving The Flash. And, you know, I can't badmouth Arrow. I've only watched the first half of the first season, and I've been really enjoying it. I just started it. And the action's been great. You know, when I first started watching this, I'm like, wow, they get this superhero thing right on TV. Yeah, that hallway scene, that nothing comes close to that.
No. And you know he's been stabbed. You know he's barely hanging on. And somebody comes at him and he wakes up again. And as soon as he knocks him out and just before somebody else comes up, he just kind of sits against the wall.
Yeah,
and
he's
like,
got to lean and catch his breath. And how about like when he does a move, you know, this is the thing. Like when you see Captain America do a move, first of all, he's got super serum in him. So yeah, he does his move and you're like, yeah, it's going to be a big, unbelievable move. When this guy does it, it's like, yeah, he's got abilities, but his abilities are not necessarily that. So when he's doing these moves, it's because of training.
Right.
And they try to give you that sense from like the Batman stuff, but Batman's got his bulky stuff on. He doesn't move like this. This guy is moving, but he's moving in a very realistic way. And after you do one of those kicks that you see him do, heck yeah, he's going to have to lean over and take a breath. And they do it, man.
You know, and the thing is, it really gives you that sense that he is his dad's son. When he gets punched, it's more an inconvenience. He can take a punch, but it's a real flesh and blood, and it really hurts. He just ignores the pain.
Yeah. Now, is this the episode where we find out about his dad? This
is,
correct?
Yeah, they go...
When the gangsters come?
Right, the gangsters come, they say, you know, hey, you're going to have to go down in the fifth. And of course, his son hears it.
Yeah.
And he goes, you know, they go back to a scene where the son is studying the Braille and he's reading out a passage. And, you know, of course, the kid has heard this and he says, you know, we go down, but the Murdochs always get up, right?
Right.
And that flipped a switch in his head and you go, oh man, this is not going to go well.
Yep. That was really great. And once again, you know, in the film, they were very quick with this whole thing. Because they had to be, and it was very, you know, movie-ish. Here, it was grittier, and it had more weight for me to what it did to Matt.
Right.
And there was a lot more depth to the whole thing. I was really digging this whole thing.
Here's a question I have. Do you think the Netflix format is truly that much different than TV, that they just get it that much more here? Or
no, I'll tell you what it is.
Is
Jack.
TV really kind of handcuffed in a way?
I'll tell you what I think it is.
Yes.
And a little, handcuffed, I think is a good way of putting it. I've said this about S.h.i.e.L.D., and I think this is illustrating it. They have 12 episodes. You can tell a story a certain way in that time frame. If the showrunners on S.h.i.e.L.D. were really smart about that show, they would treat each season as if it were two separate seasons that had connective tissue.
Right.
And they could tell a tighter story, weave it this way. You know, if they did it that way, we could have let's call each 12 episodes a season. We could have a season that is entirely about, let's say, Sky, okay?
Right.
But as a viewer, you know it's looming about everybody else, but this is about Sky. This is Sky's story. And they could get into depth about Sky, just like they're doing here, and really flesh out characters, really build something. And then the second half of the season, do another story. That would be so much more compelling. And there's very few shows that even attempt that. Once Upon a Time is about the only one that really does that. Other than that, Survivor. They call it a different season, but it's really, you know, the 2014 season had 2 seasons in it.
Right.
You know? I mean, not to go. There is a
but the format is very similar. It's still you have 12 episodes. You have a storyline.
They don't have to worry about advertisers and breaking it up and writing. You know, you write 6 pages and then you have to have a commercial break. They don't have that here.
Yeah, that's true.
I I don't even think it's that. I think it's you're on ABC. You are family friendly. You are
that's going to be
selling.
different.
Yeah, you're selling advertising space.
Right.
They're writing these 40-minute shows for Shield, but they've got their advertisers, and people are going to advertise heavily on a Marvel product.
Right. Exactly.
So they've got to be able to get people with deep pockets that they're going to show this show to, and they know that everyone's going to watch. This Netflix format, this is not for... I mistakenly had my son watch a few minutes of this, and that did not go over very well because it was Daredevil. I was just like, I didn't even realize that this was rated MA.
Yeah,
I did not even look. I just turned it on and played Daredevil. Let's watch Daredevil.
Yay, let's watch Daredevil. Is this the cartoon, Dad? Yeah.
And my wife comes down, and I'm like, oh, man.
Yeah, I'm
in trouble.
See, son, this is what they call a compound fracture. When the bone exits the skin. When the bone does not exit the skin, it's called a simple fracture. Now go tell your mom.
You know where you got in trouble, Lil, was when you didn't turn it off when you knew what was happening.
That's true.
But see, I think we're getting in the argument of...
You're sitting here upset. It's been 20 minutes, but...
I'm like, but I can't turn it off. Go into the other room, Alex. And he won't because he wants to see Daredevil. And then I'm like, okay, you're man enough. You're 4.
Yeah, but I think we're going into that whole of mature content rather than the action. I felt like if you took out the fact that you're seeing open bones and the bad guys snapping ribs out of people's chests, the fact is if you took all that out and you still had that intensity, could you do that with TV rather than taking almost a year and a half to get where Marvel has gotten with the TV show?
Right.
I think they could because, well,
I think they use it as an excuse, and I think there is a difference between.
Jack,
TV.
you calling them out?
I'm calling them out. Mark my words.
Oh, I was wrong in the other part of the episode. Jack's throwing out the mark my words.
No, I think there's an advantage to the Netflix format. I think it's much like early cable, where I think they feel a lot more freer in what they can do, but I think it's a little bit of a crutch. I think you can do this in TV if you're more careful. I agree with Lil, though. You have to be family friendly, but I think TV is going to have to adjust to the kind of things that Netflix does, not in action or mature content, but in being able to have this 12-line story. Because each of these, it reminds me of the 60s Batman series. Like, you have ongoing characters, but each of these is a contained story, yet there is still, there's always the Joker in the background, or there's always kind of something looming.
Yeah.
But at the end of each episode, I felt like I got a good story that finished. Like, if I didn't see the next episode of Daredevil, I still got a great story on the first 2. But there's more to come, so that really brings you to 3 and 4 because there's a thread,
yes.
But there's a beginning and there's a conclusion, and that's what I really like about it.
It's like a 13-hour movie, but each segment of the movie is a complete act,
right? And why not do that why not do that for TV? I think Netflix is going to change TV if they want to keep up. That, like you said, it's a 13-hour movie, except you get it once a week.
Right.
They could put this out in weekly installments. They're just putting this out for the binge watchers, which has become a big thing.
Yeah, right.
But I think it would be just as successful if one episode came out at a time. I think the average consumer likes it this way, but it doesn't preclude it from being that way. Which, do it for TV.
So did you guys think he was actually going to kill when he threw that guy off the roof?
Yes.
I did too. Jack, did you think, in hindsight, you look at it and you're like, oh, he knew. He's Daredevil. And if he had killed, that changes his character.
It does and it doesn't, Because,
But-
I look at it like Arrow right now on the CW. I mean, he was murdering people left and right in season 1.
Right.
Yeah.
And
yeah, he was.
I mean, he has gone now to redeem that quality of himself and kind of...
Like Terminator 2 when Schwarzenegger's like, I no longer want to kill. I just maim.
Exactly. But I think because of, his religious background, I think he would have, sought, for forgiveness or whatever, was it?
Yeah.
Repentance?
Well, like the way it started with
yeah.
him asking for forgiveness before he went out and did his thing.
Exactly. Right. So that's where I think that it could have gone that route.
Yeah,
I'm actually
murder
glad
is
they didn't.
A pretty big step for him.
I'm glad they didn't because that actually is okay. Never mind.
Well, I think
murder is a big step for him, and
I think
he has a hard time dealing with it, and that's why we saw him at church.
Yes.
Well, and another thing too is having Claire there, even though it was the hoodie with the little eye holes, so they could.
Fantastic.
Huh?
I said, which was fantastic.
That was fantastic. But I think because she was there, he was trying to be a little better. I think if she hadn't been introduced in the scene, I don't think he would have had any conflict. I think that guy would have died a lot sooner. But I really got the feeling that he was, like, she's up there. I'm trying not to expose her to this. But you know what? At some point, he just had enough and kicked him off the roof.
So, Alil, did you get a Spider-Gwen tweak off of that? When they showed her kind of in the background with that hoodie on, I was like, oh, I want to see Spider-Gwen in something.
You know what? I didn't even think of that.
You didn't think of Spider-Gwen? Oh,
yeah. I was too much going.
You were thinking about Spider-Ham.
Watch what was going on. Of course, always Spider-Ham, but...
Actually, Lil was thinking, well, is that Sony or Fox? And I can't remember which, but this is Claire, and it's obviously owned by Marvel, and
I wonder if Lucy Lawless is in this. Is Rob right?
That was obviously it on our mind.
Yeah, right.
That's it. This is it. This is the proof. Lucy Lawless is coming back.
If she shows up here, I would pass out. Don't spoil it, Alil, if she shows up.
And see, this is the great thing about premium content is because nobody on the regular show is even going to hear that.
Oh, you know what? Another thing we didn't mention. So there's actually a couple of little tidbits that we didn't mention. Number one, Matt's father is fighting Carl Creel, which ties us to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He's the Absorbing Man.
Yep.
Oh, and
Crusher Creel.
I don't know if Crusher Creel's going to show up here, so don't tell me. But I love the idea, and I loved that so many people seem to catch that. Like, the internet lit up with that poster.
Right.
And I was like, that's awesome. It gives us a time frame. It gives us what's going on. The other thing was in that first episode when they dropped the line about the incident, and like when they said it, I'm like, that was the attack on New York. They're just like talking about the aftermath and how this has given rise to essentially Kingpin and these other guys. That is really cool that they're branching out that way rather than like, this is going on here in this pocket and this is going on in this pocket. It's like they actually, if you go back and watch it, you get that connective tissue even to the Avengers, which is pretty sweet.
Oh, speaking of connective tissue, before I forget, Claire telling him where the trigeminal nerve was.
Yeah.
And he takes the knife and sticks it in her. How will I know when I find it? Says, you'll know. He'll tell you. I couldn't believe she did that.
Oh, it was amazing.
It's like Claire's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then tells him
oh dude, my gosh.
the trigeminal, when something happens to the trigeminal nerve, it's the most painful thing you can imagine. And I actually had something like that happen to me. And there's only one treatment, and a lot, basically insurance. It's a laser treatment that they do. This engineer invented, and it's like anything that happens with that nerve, it's just incredibly painful. And when I almost cringed when she said trigeminal nerve.
Yeah, right.
I don't think 90% of people when they heard that realize how important that one little connection is, and was like, oh my God, oh Claire, I can't believe you just did that.
How horrible are you?
Yeah. It's like, oh man, she's gonna be fun in this thing.
Oh man. Well, is that it? Did we cover these 2 episodes pretty well?
Yeah. I mean, yes, I think we did.
I think we did too. I think we covered them pretty well. I mean, I'm just excited to get into the next 2. I've only watched the next 2. So when I say, what happened in this episode, that's why, because I've watched 4 episodes and stopped. So I really can't wait to talk about the next 2 episodes and get my butt to the following 2. So here's how it's going to work. We'll do 2 episodes a week, and that will take us to the end of this season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I believe it should. And that will end our Patreon drive for this. Alil, have you, as long as we're just kind of talking here, have you thought about what we're doing for the summer series? You got any ideas yet?
I've not finalized my theory, my thoughts, because I'm trying to figure out if I'm able to locate everything I want us to do.
Okay, cool. Well, you could also ask me. I might have access to stuff, so you never know. Mark,
I want it to be a surprise.
Oh, excellent. All right. Well, I think that's it. Thank you, subscribers, so much for subscribing on Patreon, and just keep doing it, man. It does help. And tell your friends and spread the word. A couple of quick things. We have some cons coming up. s1e2 is coming up next weekend. We're not doing any panels, but we will. Alil and I will both be there. Alil, I'm going on Friday. Are you going on Friday?
I'll be there on Friday as well. Yep.
All right. So follow us on Twitter. I'm at R Southgate, also at SMG Pods, and then Nuff Said Podcast. You'll be on League of Geeks with a Z, correct? LOGEEKZ, correct?
Correct.
And we'll be tweeting out that we're there. Hopefully the Wi-Fi will work enough that we can say, hey, I'm in Artist Alley right now. And if you find us, come up and see us. Alil likely will have some kind of swag on him. I won't. I'll be standing in line trying to get that interview with Stan Lee, I think. That's what I'm going to be trying to do. And Jack, if you want to give your Twitter out.
It's at jwengroski, and I'll actually be playing at the Arst Center with Barry Manilow himself. So
wow.
So enjoy the s1e2, and I will think about Mandy while you're there.
I have a feeling you're going to be. I could just see Jack now, just in heaven doing Copacabana, just like blasting it out, just like, oh, it's my guilty pleasure.
It's a lifetime worth of work.
Excellent. I think that's it. You guys got anything else?
No, I just appreciate the premium content. You keep bringing it to us, and we're going to give it back to you.
Yeah.
So this is to the listeners.
Yeah, thank you so very much. And keep spreading that word, and we just love it. And if you have questions, let us know. We'll address them on here, because as Patreon subscribers, we will be answering questions and addressing you directly on those things. So that's it. I'm done. Enough said.
Enough said.
Enough said.